hires. So this is the second video in the two-part video series for your advanced Scratch platform game. In this video, we're going to be going over the part 2 of the assignment, which is finishing your platform game. It should have this image on the front, and the objective for this assignment is the following. We're going to be able to broadcast messages to make the backdrop change. We actually did this in the last video, so what's new on this assignment is that we are going to design new backdrops for our levels. We're going to create variables for the number of lives that our main sprite has, and we're going to add additional sprites, so enemy and friendly type of tokens, which will either subtract or add lives if we are touching them. And to top it all off, we'll add some sound effects and music to make the game fun and interactive. So part 1 of this assignment is covered on the first video I made. So if you haven't done broadcasting messages to change levels, basically when you go up to this little portal, you reappear on the other side of the screen on the next level. That's covered in the last 3 minutes of the first video. So if you need to still do that, go to the first video. So what we're going to do is we're going to design some new backdrops. So really quickly, I'm going to go to my game, and you can see I've added a number of other things here. We don't need to get too intimidated by this. I'm going to go over all of it through the course of this video. But in order to make new backdrops, what you're going to want to do is click this stage, go to Backdrops tab, and then what you can do is you can click Paint New Backdrop. So you can, add a few more backdrops. You see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 backdrops total, and these will all be different levels of my game. So you can see that for my first backdrop, I did some coloring on it. I added this little pantheon of flames right here and some red spikes coming down. So the idea is that my character needs to jump up over the flames while avoiding these little spikes and then get to the portal. So a pretty easy first level, and it gives some text instructions to jump over the fire, little guy. So what you'll do is you are going to choose 2 colors. One color that will take away your life. I would recommend red, for example. And then one color that's the same color as your ground, that's going to represent the safe areas, things that you can float on. So you can see in my second backdrop, I drew 3 little platforms. And what it looks like here is that I can jump up onto these things and stay. You'll want to make sure, if you are going to be drawing these sort of platforms, that we make one small adjustment to our motion script for our main sprite, and that's that we change this if statement. Before it said if not touching the name of this ground sprite, we're going to change it to a touching color under sensing. So grab a touching color, put it in there, and then you're going to want to change the color to whatever color of your ground sprite is. So in that case, it will work for both the ground and whatever platforms you might add on certain levels. So again, to reiterate, you're going to choose 2 colors for things. One color will be the thing that you don't want to touch. One color will be something that is safe to touch. And that basically, once you've designed at least 5 levels, that will be sufficient for part 2 of this assignment, which is design new backdrops for your levels. So let's jump to the third section, which is to create a number of lives variable. So this is pretty simple, actually. So what we can do is we go to our main sprite. We're going to go to data, which is where we can make variables. You're going to click make a variable. And you're going to call it lives. And you're going to click OK. So I've already actually made my lives, so I'm going to click cancel, but you're going to click OK, and you can say for all sprites if you'd like. So you click OK. So then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find the set blank to 0 block, and you're going to change this to lives, and you're going to drag it to any one of these one green flag is clicked for your main sprite. So make sure that you have your main sprite selected. You change this to lives, and then you put it, let's say, at the beginning. So I have two things here. I'm going to have 5 lives in my game. So I click set lives to 5, and that's good. So I actually already have one of these, so I'm going to toss that one back, pop this back in. So when I start my game, I'm on the first level, and I have 5 lives. So that's basically step 3. So we got a lot done already. So let's go to part 4, which is that we're going to create friendly and enemy sprites, which will add or reduce this variable we just made. So this section will take a little bit longer, and you're going to need to brainstorm 2 types of sprites that you want to draw. One which will be kind of your enemy character. So this is my enemy character. He's hiding right here. He's like a little flame angry ball. He's just really pissed off all the time, and he flies from the ceiling at random locations. And then this other sprite I have here, which you can't see because it's hiding right now. We're going to go over that later, but it's kind of like this balloon, and it has a heart in the middle. And my idea was that this is going to fly randomly about each sort of level. So it's going to be flying around. It's your choice whether you need to grab it and risk getting this extra token, which will give you 1 more additional life. Okay, so let's basically, I'm going to show you the script for my angry sprite, and I would recommend everyone kind of to use their own imagination and try. But what I'm showing you how to do here is this script. When you click the green flag, my angry sprite will begin to fall from the ceiling in random locations. So you could do something like this. Maybe you want yours to be flying horizontally back and forth, but I decided to make mine, fall down at random speeds in random locations. So let's just pause and unpack what I'm doing here. So I have a 1 green flag program is clicked. I created a speed variable for my evil sprite, and I went to motion, and I grabbed a go to x, y. So these are the coordinates of your sprite, your game environment. So you can see that there's an x and y coordinate as you move your cursor around. If you move it to the right, x is increasing, and if you're moving it to the left, x is decreasing into the negative range. If you are starting from the middle and going up, y is increasing up to 180, and if you go down, it decreases to negative 180. So what I was doing is I wanted my angry sprite to go to the very top of the game at a random x location, so either from very far left at negative 240 pixels, so you can see that the far left point of the screen is negative 240, and then the far right is positive 240. So I'm picking a random number under operators, and I pop it in there, and I said negative 240 to positive 240. Okay, and then the topmost Y position is around 180 pixels, but for some reason I just put 170. I could put 180 if I wanted to. That's the maximum pixel length. So one thing to think about is if you wanted to have your sprite being on the right side and moving towards the left, you would have to basically pick a random Y location. So you basically, if you want to do the opposite, where your character is flying from the right side to the left side, you would have to pick a random Y in a Y range. So you would basically pop this over here and do negative 180 to positive 180. And then your X location would be the far rightmost X pixel, which is 240. So we covered both cases. So whether we're going to go from right to left or falling down. So it's up to you. In the example I did here, I'm going to go over when you're falling down, but you can easily just switch these blocks around and think about how you would handle moving right to left. So the next thing I did is I put a forever loop, and I'm changing this Y location by whatever speed I set. So I'm changing Y by speed, and then I add this if statement. If I'm touching the ground sprite, then I'm going to do the same thing again, where I go to a random X location at the very top of my screen, where Y is 180. And then what I do is I set the speed to a random speed between -10 or -1 and -10. So it's always falling in random locations at random speeds. It keeps me makes the game a little bit unpredictable and more fun. Okay, so now what I'm going to show you is what happens when I go to my second level. So I'm going to jump over the fire. Oh my god. All right, second level. Oh, and what do you know? My balloon, it's floating away. Oh, should I go get it? Okay, and I did. I actually didn't end up writing the script to give me an additional life for doing that, but you could see that I have this balloon show up on the second level, and I went to go try to get it before going to my portal. So let's now go to this token sprite, and I'll show you how I did that. So likewise, I made a costume for this token sprite, and what I did is I made it so when I received my change level, I showed it, because at the beginning of the program, I was having it hidden. I didn't want to, reveal the token until the second level. So I hid it until I went to my second level when I received my broadcast message to change the level, which is under events, like that. Then I grabbed a show from looks right here, and then here's where hide is. And then I basically said, again, I grabbed a go to XY, and then I put random values, basically any type of random value that is possible on this two-dimensional grid. So from X -240 to -240 to 240, and then Y negative, this can be 180 to -180. I don't know, I did 170. And then what I did is I put a forever loop, and I had it point. So I made a forever loop, and then under motion, if you can see, you can have this point towards, and you can select certain sprites you have. So my angry sprite, it's called Trump Apologist, which has to do, you don't have to worry about that. So I point towards Trump Apologist, and then I move 2 steps. So I need to find the steps direction. So move, and I made it move 10 steps. So what's going on here actually is that my token sprite, it's slowly falling around the evil character. So it makes it a little bit tricky for me. Like, this thing's always going to be moving a little bit closer to the evil sprite, so it makes it a little bit random, and also makes it a trickier and more dangerous deal to go for it. Okay, so you can have you don't need to do the same thing I did at all. I just wanted to give people some ideas in terms of how we could think about making these token sprites. You can just have yours go to a random location on the screen and stay there. You can have yours, falling again from the sky. It's really up to you. So that covers the 4th part to create friendly and enemy sprites. One thing that's missing from my friendly sprite is that, well, actually, what I need to do next is make sure that in my main character, when I'm touching both the angry and friendly sprite, that I'm either adding or subtracting life. So that's what I forgot to do. So we're going to cover that now, how to add and subtract lives based on which sprite you're touching. So you can see that I have this larger script that's for when I'm touching the color of my portal, when I'm touching red. you can see I added this thing called broadcast a lose life. So let's go over that. What I did is I grabbed a broadcast under events, and what I did is I made a new message, and this is for when I lose a life. So I typed in lose life, and I made that. I'm also going to make one for when I add a life. Okay, so you can see that when I'm touching the red color, the flames, I broadcast a lose life message. And when I'm touching the Trump apologist, this guy, I broadcast a lose life message. So what happens when I receive a lose life message? So I take when I receive, and then I changed it to lose life. So that's what I have here. I ended up going to data, and I changed my number of lives by -1. So you find this change, you can change it to lives and change this to -1, like that, and then drag it underneath here. And then I went to the location on the left side of the screen where I start. So mine's -74, 138. So that's what happens when I lose a life. And I can show you at the beginning what happens. So let's say I walk into the flame, I start back in that location, and my life went down by 1. Okay, and I should also have a condition for when I add a life. So when I receive an add a life message, thought I made this. So add life. What I want to do is I want to change lives by +1. Okay, and when do I broadcast the add life message? That's a good question. I actually haven't done mine yet, so I want to grab an if statement. If blank, then, and what I want to do is if I'm touching the name of my friendly sprite, which for me is Sprite 3, so I grab this touching, choose Sprite 3, and then that is when I will broadcast the add life message. Finally, last but not least, what we're going to want to do is when I touch this friendly token, so when I receive an add life, what I'll do is I'll hide. So I don't want to be able to get that token more than once per level. So if I grab the token, it will broadcast the add life, then I'm going to hide. And then when I change the level again, it will show it no matter what. So let me just show an example of that really quick. So I need to get to my second level. Okay, I'm going to go for it. All right, yeah, I grabbed it. Now I have 6 lives, and we don't see it anymore. But if I go to, I'm not doing so hot. Okay, now I got it again. So you can see that my method kind of, it shows it again when I change the level, and I'm back to 5 lives. So this game could probably go on for pretty long, given that I have this thing showing up every single level. I mean, that's my choice. Last but not least, the last thing we're going to need to do is you're going to need to add sounds. So think about where you'd want to add sounds. Maybe when you're touching a color, or when every single time you're broadcasting a lose life, you could play a sound that, isn't so nice. You can add a happy sound when you're adding life. And the way you can do that is you can go to sounds, you can record a new sound, you can look up some from the library. So again, you can choose a sound from the library. If I want to take this cheer, it's very loud. Okay, now it shows up in my library, and then when I go to the scripts sound, I'll see the cheer there. So I can put it in when I add a life like that. So another thing you can do is if you want to just play music while your entire game's going on, you can maybe just do that from the backdrop stage. So you can, add when green flag is clicked, you can just play a very long sound. Like it can be a song, for example. So imagine if you found a song, you can choose that song or record a song. You can upload a song, and that will work. So I'm going to try to finish this video. I think that covers all 5 requirements, and let's just make sure we did it all. So we designed new backdrops, we created a variable for number of lives, we added an additional sprite or an enemy and a friendly token, which add and subtract lives. Then we added sound effects. So that's basically it. Your game should have about 5 levels total. And if you're having any trouble or bugs in this game, definitely make sure to look over part 1 video, and I can also take questions in class, of course. So thanks for watching, and good luck with the rest of your games.